Welcome, one and all, to another outstanding, exciting, scintillating episode of Moment of Truth, hosted by yours truly, the harbinger of truth, the man who dares to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Jeremy Prophet. Conspicuous by their absence are the other co-hosts, Frank Jofo and Kyle. And, when I think of today's guest, I think that it might be somebody that, when it comes to Kyle, either he or the WWE, they might, owe Kyle some royalty money because, quite frankly, I think that the character that this person was based off of was clearly inspired to a high degree by the real-life story of Kyle. And, of course, I'm talking about the one and only Eugene. So this will be a very exciting and eye-opening moment of truth. So right now, I have the esteemed pleasure of being joined by someone that I've looked up to, that I've had the privilege of battling in the ring, and that has continued to contribute on so many levels to the professional wrestling business, one of the most decorated superstars in OVW history, in WWE, where he faced Triple H at SummerSlam, challenged for the world title. A man who's seen a lot of highs, more highs than lows, and who continues to inspire none other than Eugene Nick Dinsmore. Nick, so glad to have you with me here today. How you doing out there?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. The weather's getting better here in Canada. The old COVID virus is starting to subside. Restrictions are going down, which means that wrestling is probably right around the corner here. So hopefully by the time this episode drops, I'll be right back to kicking ass and taking names and, doing the thing that we love to do here in this wrestling business. How have things been out where you are?
I'm living in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the best little city in America, where I've started Midwest All Pro Wrestling. And when the COVID deal hit, it got us down for a little bit, but we've rebounded really well. We've got a great fan base here in Sioux Falls, and we're set to take off. That's why I've got my action figure. I'm ready to go.
All right. Awesome. Now, you and I, we go a little ways back because I have had the chance to wrestle you on 3 occasions. The first time was actually in Barrie, Ontario.
It was sold out. It was packed to the rafters.
Yep. It was just like
people away at the door. It was the talk of the town.
Yep. It was just like Madison Square Garden in the heyday of Bruno Sammartino. Yes. And we were actually on opposing ends of a 6-man tag. And that was the first time that we got to do a little bit of something there. And also, one thing that I remember is that you had a seminar right before the show. And I learned quite a bit at that seminar, albeit it wasn't very long. It was maybe about, 2 hours or so. But I learned a few key things. And along the journey that I've had in wrestling, I always like to highlight the people who've had an impact on my career and made an impression. And I remember from that seminar, I was in there working with a guy by the name of Alex Silva, another great talent, friend of mine from here. I think he, spent a little time down in OVW too. And I was in there working with him, and we were doing a drill about heat. And I remember I was just in there beating on him. And at the time, I guess I didn't really grasp the concept of heat. And I remember just beating on him. And you were encouraging that. And then I just said, I got to give him something because I'm just eating him alive here. And I let him get something on me. And I remember you were just like, stop, hold on. You just killed your heat. Why are you giving him something? And the lesson that you taught me there with heat always stuck with me. And I have you to thank for that. And I think that if people watch my matches, they'll see that I put quite a threatening heat on my opponents. And that skill is from the master here, from Nick Dinsmore, heat. And we would then have our match. And then we would go on tour in the Maritimes in Nova Scotia. And we had a couple more. And,
it was sold out, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember fans were showing up at the hotels. They were on tour with us. It was amazing.
Yeah, and those after parties. Can't forget those.
Crazy.
But I like that, we got to know each other there, and I got to learn even more by being in the ring with you. And, if you go and watch our matches, to the fans I'm talking to, if you guys go out and watch our matches, you'll see there's some the comedy stylings of Eugene in full effect. And I remember you taught me that lesson about how, those Johnny Saint Fit Finlay matches, they worked because, Fit was such a good straight man. And that's what you were trying to bring out in me, to be that straight man to the comedy antics. And, at the time, the matches, I think that we clicked really well, but I've also used that in other matches. And I think that this speaks to the tools and the being able to pick the brain of someone who's had such an illustrious career like yourself. I do hope you enjoyed those matches as much as I did. They were really monumental for my career.
I enjoyed them. It was very fun. You didn't hurt me, so you're A-okay in my book, brother.
No. Well, that's better than most of my opponents, because usually they don't say the same things. I tend to be a little snug, but hey, you got to protect the business, I remember you started telling me a bit about your early career, and it's something I want to get into because obviously people know you from Eugene and the WWE, but you also spent some time in WCW. I remember you telling me you were the first guy to take Ernest the Cat Miller's finisher, the feliner, that turning kick, and. Was that really the case, that you were the first one to take that finish from Ernest Miller?
If I told you that, then I'm sure it's true, brother. So as best I can remember, he was trying stuff out, and he did give it to me on Thunder. It was a good kick. He was like, I don't know, I can't remember what we do. He was awesome. He'd spin, hit the ropes, and good flush kick to the chest. It was good.
Yeah. And I remember you even suggesting, hey, maybe you should try that out in the match. And I think that was the first time I actually used that. We did a good falsie with it. And, that stuck with me to my repertoire, even to today. Thankfully not killed anybody on it. Although, as I was telling my colleagues here before we went on the air, the worst thing that happened was I did hit a guy with it. He, I guess, forgot it was coming. And I put him out for about 15 seconds solid. Either me hitting him or him hitting the mat. I don't know. We'll get the clip up there, and, you folks at home can decide.
It's not ballet.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you can have a bad day at the office. But, your career there, WCW, then WWE. One of the things I noticed when I was doing my research was you and Rob Conway, you guys seem to, really follow each other. Your careers seem to, kind of be on the rise at the same time. Two top prospects out of OVW, now on the Raw brand, fighting over the tag team titles. I'm guessing, you and Rob probably go way back.
Yeah, I knew Rob even before I started wrestling. We both lived in Southern Indiana. I signed up with OVW in 96, I think maybe May of 96, and he might have signed up 8 months later or so. He's a couple years older than me, but he was an outstanding basketball player in Southern Indiana in the high schools there, New Albany High School. He's a really good athlete, and he did some bodybuilding. And I had just gotten out of high school, and I was in college, and we both kind of signed up for OVW at the same time. We were both, athletic guys that worked out, and we really, along with Doug Basham and then Danny Basham, the Damage Up, and a few other guys in OVW, we became like the core crew that when the WWE guys came in, they could have guys that had experience to wrestle against.
Mm-hmm. And so when you were there, was that when Jim Cornette had a hand in OVW?
So I started in 96. Cornette came, I believe, I feel like it's between 98 and 99. I'm thinking it's 98, but it could be 99, somewhere July-ish. And then that's when the developmental talent started coming, and he was writing TV. And we kind of transferred from it was Danny had training, and then we were doing TV. But then when Jimmy got there, TV really kicked up a notch, and it was a whole nother ball game.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like from what I hear about the guys who were there at the same time as you were one of the most reliable hands. You were the guy that, they could put you in with anybody and you'll be able to get a fantastic match out of them. Obviously me being the age that I am, I wasn't there firsthand, but from a lot of your peers that were there, that was, I think, the reputation that you had. Which I find there's kind of a duality there because I feel like a lot of people kind of were getting called up before you. And then ultimately your time came around. So maybe you could walk us through what was it like from, seeing these guys go up and then your chance came, but it was going to be Eugene. How did that all come together?
So when I signed up with, it was the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Professional Wrestling, which eventually became OVW. My wildest dream was to wrestle for WWE, but I didn't know how to get there or how to do it. And I didn't know that I didn't think I would make it there. I was kind of like, I'd love to, but that might just be, I just want to try this wrestling. And then I did a little USWA, did a little WCW, and then Danny struck the deal with WWE, and I just got hired kind of in. The OVW guys were getting paid the least amount of any contract guys, but we weren't WWE wasn't beating down our door to get us. Cornette and Danny got us a job kind of on the back end. Hey, take care of our guys. And again, I never thought I'd make it to TV. And I kept wrestling, and I had more experience than everybody, and I was having a good time, and I was living in my own bed, and I wasn't traveling far, and it was a really good job. And I don't know that I ever made it, but then the thing is, I would see guys complain, and all of a sudden they get called up to TV. And I'd never complained, always on time. So I told Doug Basham, I said, Doug, I think I'm going to quit and try to go to Japan, which I had no connection with Japan. I had no intention of doing that. I just put that out there to kind of see what would happen. Doug told Dean Malenko, Dean tells Johnny Ace, and then all of a sudden I'm in a meeting with Vince McMahon. Stephanie McMahon's there, and Vince goes, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. This was February 2004. Austin was on that Raw for some reason. He came back and did something. Okay, so that was February 2004. Sorry, February 2004. About 6 or 8 months prior, Rip Rogers came to me and said, well, what about a character that isn't very social, can't necessarily tie his shoes, but the minute the bell rings, he can do all kinds of wrestling. He knows all the trivia. He's an idiot savant with wrestling. So I pitched it to some of the agents when they were there, Arn, Fit, Dean, and they're like, wrestling's kind of gone beyond that gimmicky stuff. We don't do that anymore. Okay. A couple months go by. The writers came down, which the writers, when I was there, didn't come to Louisville often, maybe 2 or 3 times altogether. Pitched it to the writers. Vince wouldn't do that. He wouldn't like that. Okay. A couple months go by. I'm in that meeting with Vince. Stephanie's there. I want to get back to character-based wrestling. And I just spit out the idiot savant character. Austin walks in. Vince goes, have you ever seen him wrestle before, Steve? Steve goes, no. I said, well, Danny Davis trained me. And I knew that Danny and Austin had become friends when they wrestled in Dallas. So Austin looks at me and goes, well, he's probably one of the best. And it was that vote of confidence that Vince goes, all right, let's start on Monday.
Wow.
But we ended up starting a couple months later, but it was the green light.
So then it went, I assume, right into the vignettes, which were those vignettes of you and William Regal, where you started getting in there.
So actually, I went to Connecticut and I shaved and I cut vignettes like Eugene's coming vignettes, which never aired. And I didn't really care for them too much. And then they called me, no, grow the beard back. So grow the beard back. And then I don't remember if I knew I was going to debut in, I think it was May 2004 when Regal came back. We were in Houston. I think I knew I was debuting that night, but I really can't remember because it was like I had the flu and it was kind of surreal all at the same time.
Yeah. That's interesting. So do you really feel had you not complained, they would have overlooked you? Or had you, maybe I shouldn't say complained, but had you not pushed as strongly as you did on those multiple occasions, that they would have overlooked you?
What I tell my guys is the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. You know, me just saying, hey, maybe I look for another option to kind of see what gets out there in the universe, as opposed to, hey, you need to do this, I need this, I deserve this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just the way to look at it positively and try to, but yeah, squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting because, yeah, I do remember at that time, there weren't a lot of characters. You'd kind of get, all these guys like the Randy Ortons, the good-looking, good-shaped guy in trunks going out there, and it's just a wrestler. Everyone was kind of just a wrestler. Even, guys like my good friends Sylvain Grenier and Rene Dupree. They even though they were French, they were just, guys in trunks that were wrestlers. So, yeah, I think that definitely there was room for a character. And
the only kid's character was Hurricane. And the brands were split, so one show didn't have a kid's character. Yeah,
I think
I was looking up that Brian Gerwick could write for Eugene, and Gerwick wrote a lot of the rock stuff, and he just immediately started writing, and he could write for Eugene, and he painted that picture beautifully.
Wow, and yeah, I think that there was room for the character because it was so different than everything else. And I think that a lot of people, in wrestling don't realize that different is important, that if you can be that one person that the people remember, that guy, he was different. You don't have to necessarily be outstanding, but if you're different, then you'll stand out. I've always tried to make myself different in many ways. You know, if people are going left, then I'm definitely going right, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that was the charm of the Eugene character, was that it was so different, especially on the Raw brand, which at that time was, you know, more dominated by the, you know, Triple H's reign and so on. So now you have this other character. And I remember being in school and people saying like, hey, I can't wait to see what Eugene does next. I can't wait to see what the next twist and turn, even just the anticipation to your first match. You know, fans wanted to see what can he actually do in the ring, this idea of this like wrestling Rain Man. And I kind of feel that when you look at the run as a whole, I feel that aspect kind of got lost a little bit and kind of just, you know, became more comedy relief. But I like the fact that when, as you said, when the bell rings, he gets the job done, even at the highest level, against a Triple H, against a Batista, whoever it may be. You know, so I think that was really cool about the character. Did they have big plans right from the get-go that we're gonna catapult you and we're gonna put you into a program with Triple H and Evolution, or was that just a byproduct of the character being so?
I don't think that they thought I could pull it off. You know what I mean? Because me pitching the character is one thing, but going out there and getting it across to the fans is something else. You know, you know, once the bell rings, you have to be character throughout. Curtain to curtain, in the airport, fully committed. And it was just something, it was like a magical part of my life that just, when it was time, it was on, and Eugene was out, and I don't know, it was just, I can't really explain it. I don't know if you watched the Jim Carrey thing where he talked about being in the Andy Kaufman movie.
Yes, I did see
that. In the movie, he was in the zone, right? And after that, he said he couldn't do it anymore because he wasn't in the zone. You know, something about that magical period of life when you just kind of concentrate and get your vibrations all going a certain way and you come up with magic.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to a level of method acting where you don't just play the character, you are the character. You fully immerse yourself in what it's about. And I feel like The Undertaker talked about that, how he had to be The Undertaker all the time. Anytime there were eyes on him, you know, if he's you know, driving down the road, he's got to be The Undertaker. If he's in the airport, so on and so forth, which is kind of funny because back in, I think it was right around that time in 2004, we had a show here. We had a Raw here in Montreal. And I remember I got to meet you before the show, and it wasn't, you know, a fancy meet and greet or anything like that. You just walked down the street and we're just, you know, walking in through the parking garage. And yeah, you had on the Eugene t-shirt, the same ring jacket that you wear. You had your suitcase with you, and you were just, you know, full on in character, talking like Eugene. I'm sure I can get my producer the picture. You can probably put it up for our fans that are watching. But that was actually the first time I met you. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you wrestled Kane that night. I think that was the story they did, and it was some kind of stipulation or something.
Eugene was undefeated. Eugene was undefeated. Wrestling King, and he won by disqualification.
By disqualification, yeah, that was the one. That was here in Montreal. I was there live for that. Met you right before that show. That was the first time we ever met. And yeah, you know, I got to witness firsthand. Like, I saw you there, and even though, you know, we know what wrestling is all about, we know it's entertainment. You were so convincing in everything you were doing that it was like, you know, is he really this way? Is this really what he's all about? You know, the internet wasn't as sophisticated and detailed as it is now. So, you know, even I had my doubts, and my friend who was there with me was the same kind of thing. He's like, wow, he's really like this in real life. We thought he was just acting. So again, you know, protecting the business. It's a good thing to see. Yeah, I love that Eugene run. And I think when they started that storyline with Triple H being that bad influence on you, it really added another dimension to the character that now, you know, are you going to fall prey to the bad influence? And then when you had that match with him, I mean, you had everyone believing you were going to become world champion, that you would take this gimmick that, you know, I quite frankly, I think a lot of people wrote off and just dismissed as comedy. And now you're more or less in the main event. So that must have been great. I mean, what was it like working with Triple H?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I mean, he's the ring general of ring generals. He's easy to work with, you know, but when you're on top and the people are into everything you're doing, you know, it's easy. You know, it really is, because you got the people all the time, and he's a master of it. Mm-hmm. No, but, I mean, it was a rocket, man. I came in, I got over, you know, I had the thing with Coach, I had the thing with Bischoff, and then right to Triple H. And then it was,
Yep. No, definitely. You had all the momentum behind you, and the ratings to justify it as well. And so, I think that the Eugene character, you definitely far exceeded people's expectations of what they had for it. And by the way, that SummerSlam, I don't know if you realize, but you're officially listed as the main event now since Chris Benoit doesn't exist anymore. So that's, something to be very proud of. Speaking of Benoit, because I'm a very big fan of Chris Benoit, I call myself the harbinger of truth because I'm not scared to talk about things like Benoit, talk about things that are taboo in wrestling. I remember you got to work Chris Benoit as Doink on an episode of SmackDown a few years before Eugene. What was that like working with Chris?
Well, I had wrestled Chris. He came to OVW and wrestled me in Louisville at the Louisville Gardens. That's when I was top babyface. Cornette was writing me on the very top, and brought in Benoit to wrestle me, and we went like 20 minutes in the Louisville Gardens, back and forth, toe to toe, and then Rico Constantino came down and caused me to lose because that was in the storyline there. That was if I won that match, I go to Raw, and then Rico took it away from me. But Chris and I became friends there, and he came down several times rehabbing his neck injuries, and we would just wrestle at the OVW arena. And to be able to be in the angle with him was really cool. Yeah.
No, I thought it was a great match too. I remember he gave you that belly to back suplex off the top rope, which you're seeing Doink against Chris Benoit, and now he's on the top rope, belly to back suplex, taking all these big bumps, really a tooth and nail going after you. And I really thought that, you did something there that, again, much like the Eugene character, people's expectations were probably, it's not going to be much. And go back and watch that match on the network or Peacock, whatever you guys got out there, fans that are watching. Listen to the reactions for Chris Benoit wrestling this gentleman over here as Doink. I think it's a real hidden gem of a match.
Because I did the pay-per-view that was that Sunday before JBL's Barroom Brawl. I was Doink in the Barroom Brawl. Conway and Jeter were the Conquistadors, but a couple weeks earlier, Conway and I were the Conquistadors. It wasn't the gold outfit. It was just the black mask. It was really chintzy. But then at the pay-per-view, I was Doink. And then they came to me and said, well, hey, we planned on leaving and going back to Louisville, the developmental guys. They said, no, we want you to stay. We want you to be Doink against Benoit on SmackDown. And we want you to go 20 minutes. And you as Doink. And I'm like, me as Doink against Benoit, 20 minutes on SmackDown. Yeah. So that's what we want. I'm like, Doink hasn't been on TV except for this pay-per-view in, 10, 15 years. And then you want me to go toe-to-toe with, like, one of the top guys. Oh, yeah. So let me get the TV. Well, it might be 12 minutes now once we get it. It might be 12 minutes, right? Day kind of goes, well, I think you guys got 6 now, maybe 6. And then it was like 30-second squash, which is what it's supposed to be. But I'm like, I don't know.
But for what it was, and I think it was maybe a little more than 30 seconds, again, the reactions were tremendous to that match. Everything he hit you with, you sold it like death. And I find that, when I watch some of your Nick Dinsmore stuff, like, you kind of remind me a bit of a Chris Benoit in how you perform. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned Doink because I remember this, you probably don't, but when we were on that tour in Nova Scotia, I remember a fan came up to you, and it was an older fan who probably hadn't watched, current WWE and probably didn't know about the Eugene run. And they were saying to you, they were like, you kind of look like a wrestler I saw on TV there. And you start rattling off names. I forget what the first couple ones you said were, but then you said Big Josh. And I found that one funny because you do kind of look like Big Josh, who was Matt Bourne.
Yeah.
Who, for those who don't know, was Matt Bourne.
I met Matt Bourne once, but like a lot of other people would say that to me. Oh, you remind me of Matt Bourne.
So doesn't that really come full circle how people would say that about you, and then lo and behold, you end up getting to play Doink on multiple occasions?
I was number 6. Sixth man to be Doink. Number 6.
So there was Matt Bourne. We actually had Steve Lombardi, the Brooklyn Brawler, on with us. He was Doink on a couple occasions. Ray Apollo.
In JBL's Barroom Brawl, the Brooklyn Brawler beat up Doink. Doink came out first. The thought was everybody would think it would be a Brawler. Then Brawler comes out and beats him up. Yay!
So that actually brings me to another time that I saw you in action live was in Toronto at the Air Canada Centre in one of the most unique matches I've ever seen live. And it was actually the main event. You main evented a Saturday night's main event because it was you teaming with Kane, and Doink. Now, I don't know who played Doink. I have my suspicions that was probably Brawler playing Doink.
Yeah,
okay.
Brawler.
Okay, he kind of kayfabed me on that when we interviewed him a few weeks ago, or maybe he just didn't remember. But I had my suspicions that was Steve against Kevin Thorne, Big Vis, and Umaga.
Yeah.
And that was a main event of Saturday Night's main event.
Main event, right?
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of something they were just playing around with the taping order. Maybe they wanted to put the most disposable match they could cut down on time at the end, and they were just going to, because it was taped, they were going to put one of the other matches as the main event, probably with Cena or Batista. And I actually thought the taping was over and it was just going to switch over to Raw. And then you come out with this motley crew of crazy characters, and then to fight another crew of crazy characters. You guys actually got the win that night, but I mean, that must have been a lot of fun doing that match. Just, getting the team with all those guys. And
did Viscera hump Eugene in that one?
It sounds very plausible, but I think that
Remember
there was
when Big Vis would do the humping, he would hump the guy.
Yeah, I believe they called it the Visagra. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Trevor Murdoch would always have to take it. He'd get the Big Vis.
Because but I think you guys end up getting the win. I think maybe Umaga, I don't know, he got upset and he left, or Armando told him to leave. I really forget the finish. I just remember you guys went over. I think it was maybe Kane on Kevin Thorne was the end of that one. But that was really a unique match to see you in. Just to backtrack it though, I remember that you and William Regal won the tag team championships. You guys beat La Resistance.
Yep.
Had a great run. I personally think Regal added a lot to the Eugene character, being that mentor figure, and the moment where he stood up for you and stood up to Triple H. That was an epic moment too. And I remember you said a comment to me when we were just shooting the shit and talking about your career as Eugene. You said that Regal helped you a lot, and that you. Well, I hope you folks are enjoying Moment of Truth. I know I am. So let me take this time to spit a little bit more truth, because with what's going on in the world, I know you guys are looking for a place to go where you can have a good time. So that's why you should head on over to Esports Central, where you can watch all the best sporting events. You can watch the Euro Cup. You can watch this amazing run that the Habs are on. And then when you're done watching the sports, you can actually play, because they have such an incredible video game set up with social distancing and COVID restrictions in place to make sure that you can have a good time and have a safe time as well. So don't hesitate to head on over, enjoy the festivities, and be able to get a sense of normalcy at 1231 St. Catherine West, Esports Central. I'm headed there. Maybe you'll see me. Would have been dead in the water if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He it gave him a layer to his character that nobody had ever seen. It almost made him a little bit human, like he endeared himself to someone that and you never seen Regal do that. If he's babyface or heel or whatever, he's always just been, the quintessential heel almost. And now he's, caring for someone, like you said, standing up for somebody that can't stand up for themselves. And I wish he would have had a strong babyface run. Yeah, but I mean, it gave us that odd couple pairing, and he could react to what I was doing, and people were, waiting to see what I was going to do, and he could kind of lead the scene or lead me, and then when the time's right, boom, and then do something. So we're not doing too much, we're not doing, too little. Plus, with his experience, just to take me by the hand and say, okay, the airplane thing was his idea one day. We were just on TV, and he goes, run around like your airplane. I just take off like an airplane, and he'd be trying to pull me back. He goes, do a roll forward and do it again. And I just roll, and I just keep going. He's like trying to pull me back, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, definitely. You guys had great chemistry. I can personally say, from a fan perspective, having seen William Regal, since Lord Steven Regal in WCW, through his run in WWE, and, how can we forget him being a real man's man? That was, up to that point, the most I was entertained by him was his pairing with you. Yep. I've always been a fan of those odd couple tag teams, like where the two, like a Team Hell No, or like when Charlie Haas was doing his thing with Rico. I like those teams, but I like that your story, it was an odd couple that kind of, became like a father-son type of relationship. And I think it was really good. How much did the injury derail what the plans were for you guys when you had gotten hurt there, unfortunately, at Taboo Tuesday?
Yeah, that ended it. Yeah, that was it. That ended it. Because they sent him to SmackDown after that. And then when I came back, I wrestled Kurt Angle. They had me with Christy Hemme, but it was just, it was, I don't know why. There was no, I don't know.
And it's like I was telling my fellow studio members here who are avidly watching this interview, not only were you a tag team champion, you're also a gold medalist because you beat Kurt Angle for his gold medal. And I thought that was a great storyline too. I know that he had some good momentum. He was beating the local heroes, and then you came along, took the gold medal. You actually did a thing here in Montreal too. You were supposed to fight Rene Dupree, but then Angle jumped him, so it kind of just ended up being a promo between you and Christy, and then Kurt. And I feel like around that point, a little bit afterwards, the Eugene character, like it kind of lost some steam. It wasn't being featured as prominently. When you mentioned Brian Gewirtz before and writing good stuff, it speaks to today where wrestling is heavily scripted. And, we had Sabu on here and he said he never got pushed in WWE or as much as he would have liked because he didn't have a friend in the booking team. Do you feel like the writers kind of gave up on Eugene, or what do you feel contributed to, you no longer being featured as prominently?
Well, you also have to cycle these guys around. You know what I mean? Pull Eugene back a little bit. They tried the thing with Christy, and it just didn't work out. The chemistry wasn't there. They wanted her to be the cheerleader for Eugene, and but then they sent me to SmackDown, and the plan was to have Eugene. I don't know if it was a plan, but it was an idea that I heard. Put Eugene with Bob Holly. And there again is that odd couple pairing. Bob's always pissed off, and Eugene just doing his antics, and then but non-compliance got me released for the first time in 2007.
When you say non-compliance, is that you're talking about wellness or what?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I know I read about there was an incident, something you had passed out or something like that. And
in the middle of the hotel lobby with everybody watching in my underwear in England.
Oh wow. Sounds like it was the hell of a party there, but.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually like a drug test failure. It was just an incident, really.
The incident sent me to a 9-week vacation, and then when I came back, the WWE doctor said, "Just don't take the somas because somas what kill all the guys." And then, but you can take the pain pills. So I started taking the pain pills, and I took one that I didn't have I had a prescription for it, but the doctor, to prove it, I had to get him to write a statement. He committed suicide.
The doctor committed suicide.
Yes.
Wow.
But I'd had it from a way back, so the Walgreens said that they couldn't find it on their machine because it was over a year old, maybe. So.
Well,
I don't know. It was like I don't want to.
Yeah. So was there
graves? I got myself released.
Yeah.
But it was.
So what I want to say is, was there maybe an understanding that we're gonna let you go, but we want to bring you back?
No.
Okay. So
I was in Cincinnati. Victoria and I were traveling together, and we were traveling with someone else in Cincinnati, and then we're going to Cleveland, and then I think somewhere else. And I got fired, so I'm in Cincinnati stuck. I got to find my way home.
Wow.
Luckily, somebody else was leaving from Cincinnati back to Louisville, so I got a ride. But it was like just on tour, just kicked right out. There you go, you're out.
Because it's interesting, because that was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 2007. Does that sound
2007, I think September, maybe, I can't remember.
So we ended up wrestling about a year later in 2008. That was that was our first match, and then I think we had maybe our other two somewhere between 2008 2009. But I mean, you went hard on the independents after that. You were in a ton of places there. You went back to OVW, had some success there. Appeared in Ring of Honor also. You were also at that time, I think that you had done some stuff. I'm trying to think if TNA, you had done some stuff with TNA. Was that when they were doing Ring Ka King, or that might have been a little bit later?
I did Ring Ka King, which was a TNA product, but then I had one, I guess, tryout match or whatever for a dark match for TNA, but it really didn't lead anywhere. But then I was hired soon after that as a coach at the Performance Center.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, because then
I was also rehired in there in 2009.
That's where I was going, to that match that you had with The Miz. I think you did a house show before that, and then you had the match with Miz on Raw. Yeah. And so they hired you, but then I think that they hired you as a trainer and as a wrestler as well.
Well, they really weren't sure, but they hired me as an on-air talent. And the thought was maybe we could work into some coaching. I came in, and I guess I wasn't in as top shape as I should have been, which I wasn't. but I felt like Eugene wasn't a bodybuilder. I don't know. I was in horrible shape, but I mean, I didn't get a warning or anything. It was just like, okay, you're gone.
But I mean, there's got to be a certain double standard there when they say, like, you're in horrible shape, but, let's say a guy like Trevor Murdoch is there at the same time who, comparatively looks about the same, out there wrestling in trunks. You're there in your superhero outfit. You're not putting it all on display to, get the women too excited in the audience here. But with that said, I feel there's kind of a double standard that you could easily point out, 5-6 other guys who probably looked worse. So you're saying there was no warning. There was just, you're not in shape. We're releasing you.
You should have asked to go to FCW to get in shape. Okay, I didn't know that was an option, but I'm sorry.
Because, I mean, I get a lot of guys, and I'm not trying to put you in a position here to speak ill of the company, but when it comes down to it, with all this talk of body shaming and these kinds of things, look, I get if you're gonna walk down a catwalk wearing Victoria's Secret, obviously, it wouldn't be good for selling the product if you're, north of 400 pounds. But I mean, when it comes to professional wrestling, a sport where we have people of all shapes and sizes, I don't think it's fair to say to someone, hey, we're gonna, give you this offer, then we're gonna pull the rug out from under you just because you're not, the masterpiece Chris Masters. It's I don't know, man. Do you? I feel you got treated a little unfairly there. I'll say it if you want.
I don't want to come off like I got sour grapes because the company's like done so much for me, and like it's been a great opportunity, and the blessings have far outweigh the negatives. But yes, at that time it was a little kick in the balls.
No, I can imagine, definitely. But that wouldn't be the last time that you do business with them because they did bring you back in 2013 as a coach for NXT. And I assume you got to work with a lot of talent, a lot of the top stars of today in WWE.
I was in that first class at the Performance Center. Neville was there, Sami Zayn was there, Sasha and Charlotte and Bayley, all of them. The big first crew that was on NXT, I got to work with all of them. It was awesome. It was really, that building is phenomenal. Anybody that goes there and everybody that goes there should succeed. That's what I'm saying. They get so many resources, from the library to the brains you can pick to just it's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I had done some tryouts myself in 2010 and 2012. I did back when it was FCW. I went down for a week there with Steve Kern and his crew. Then did some TVs in 2010, had it out with Johnny Ace, came pretty close, I think, to getting signed that time around. By 2012, now at the Performance Center, things had changed. I wasn't quite up to your good buddy, Mr. Regal standards, but, lesson learned and still forging ahead, still, training every day and got my eye on the prize while I'm, still young and good looking. Well, I used to be young and good looking. Now I fancy myself just good looking. But when it comes down to it, I still would like to be able to make it to national television, much like yourself. So, yeah, I know that definitely those guys have tons of great opportunities to learn from so many people. And, I think that it's a step in the right direction. I mean, I'm sure if you compare OVW to the Performance Center, it's like night and day comparing the two.
Well, the story that I got was when Triple H was coming out of the ring and kind of going into the office, Vince had asked him, go around to every department, sit in with that department, the travel, the billing, the whatever, advertising, all these different departments, and then come back and give me a report. And WWE has like a standard of excellence in everything they do. I mean, it's like it's the best of the best. Triple H was in all these departments, but then he went down to FCW and he came back and he's like, well, the developmental is just kind of fucked up because if you look at it, it was WWE contracting an indie company to train their stars. And Triple H is like, well, that isn't really that WWE standard. So then Vince goes, okay, well, then that's your department now. And Triple H went to the New York Giants football squad to see the building they had to train their athletes. And he goes, okay, this is what I want. And he got in Orlando and found a building and put a gym. I mean, this place is phenomenal. You can do interviews. I mean, it's really a spectacle.
Yep. No, I mean they're definitely blessed to have a place like that. I can only imagine, what level I could take my talents to. Being that we're on the independents, we get to go to a seminar here and there. We have our home base where we train, but just to have all those resources all in one place with all of these people with such great minds for the business that you can learn from. They have everything in place to succeed. So definitely, they're kind of like the spoiled rich kids on the playground. But hey, let's face it, a billion-dollar company, it should be adequate at every level. Much like you said there, in Triple H appraised the whole thing. So you were there as a coach. You were no longer there. What took place? What caused that?
I don't know. I mean, it was just at one point they said that I wasn't up to the standard of their coaches, and they're just going to release me. So, but it was probably for the best because it was a high stress job. I mean, working for WWE, if you're in any type of coaching or agent situation, it's a high stress job, and I loved it and I enjoyed it and I learned a lot, and I met a lot of cool people. But it was like stress that probably I didn't need, and it now allowed me to open Midwest-Ohio Pro Wrestling, which is my own creation, and I can do it exactly how I want. And it's it's a labor of love, and I've been doing that for 6 years now, and stress free. Mm-hmm. Relatively stress-free.
Yeah, no, that's good. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about Midwest All Pro. Who are some of your top stars? Who are some people to keep an eye on, or people that you've produced and gotten to the the national stage?
So I got released as a coach, I think 2015, and my wife's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. When I was touring with WWE in 2004, I came here and I met her. She was on television here. She was a Hot Country Video with Stephanie, and Regal and Eugene are on the little bumper. Hey, watch Hot Country Video with Stephanie, and Regal's like, yeehaw, in like that dry British accent. It was funny. And we met, and I swept her off her feet and took her around the world. In 2015, she goes, I want to move back home, and I wanted her to start an indie wrestling company, and there was no independent wrestling in Sioux Falls. Zero. The closest company is in Omaha, which is 3 hours away. So I knew I wanted to do it here because no competition. But then I used some of the guys from the neighboring communities from Omaha and from Minneapolis. And over the past 6 years, I've amassed, I don't know how many guys I've had total, but I've got a crew of about 30 students now. Okay. And we've got 2 monthly shows, and we've actually got a lot of shows over the summer. But for the past 5 years, we've had 2 monthly shows. And in some months, we get a couple more. Just trying to stay busy, trying to train students. I had one guy that was nearing a tryout before COVID. So I haven't got anybody to get a tryout, none of my guys yet. I think some of them were extras, maybe, I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But
so what I was going to say is South Dakota, is it off WWE's radar? Like they don't even go there?
Well, actually, they just a couple years ago they opened a new big arena here, a big 26,000 seat arena that it's huge because the population is growing here, and WWE did their first TV here, the SmackDown, and my wife was fucking on it. She Dolph Ziggler wanted to do a deal where he was Macho Man, and then the casting agency got a model from the area, which my wife got the job, and she went out and was like Miss Elizabeth on the first WWE live TV from Sioux Falls.
Oh wow!
It was on SmackDown, and then I think they came again. They did Raw, but yeah, it's growing on all the touring companies' schedules because we got this new big arena here.
Because I don't hear too often about South Dakota, although. I want to say I have a vague memory that maybe WCW used to go to Sioux Falls.
Well, WWE has gone there. Like we were here. I don't know that they never did TV here, but WCW did TV at Sturgis for the Road Wild pay-per-view.
That was it. Yeah. South Dakota. Yeah. I mean, it's you don't hear too much about that state. It's one of those, not to say, forgotten states, but it kind of is, aside from the fact that I think, isn't Shayna Baszler from there?
Baszler from Sioux Falls. I had her on my first show.
Oh, look at that.
On my second show, she had 6 matches, and I put her in the main event. And that was before the women wrestling revolution. I put an inexperienced woman on the main event, but she drew well. She did well. She wrestled another girl from, I can't remember, the other girl's from Minnesota area. But Eugene was a special guest ref, and it was really cool.
Oh, that's good to hear. So you said she had 6 matches when you put her in the main event.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing, being that she had, been in combat sports before, that kind of experience allowed her to find that synergy with professional wrestling and be a little bit more ring ready than the average person or even athlete that would decide.
But she's also a fan too. So I mean, she knew like she been a fan for a long time, and she wrestled Heather Patera, who was trained by Ken Patera, and she could work well. She knew how to like work. So it was a good match, easy.
Mm-hmm. No, it sounds good. And, I'm definitely a big fan of Shayna Baszler. And I think that, they're starting to scratch the surface on some of the stuff she can do. She seems like she's got a great personality from what I see of her on social media, and she can definitely get it done in the ring. So I think a lot of potential there. One of the people that I wish they would actually use a lot better. But, if we talked about that, we could go on for hours here.
Who's got the pencil? Yeah. But the thing about South Dakota, is it's the Mount Rushmore state. And if there was a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
I don't get asked that very often, but I would say on mine, The Rock would definitely have to be on there because he reaches well beyond professional wrestling. I would say for how far he advanced the wrestling business, Stone Cold Steve Austin would also have to be on there. I would also say, love him or hate him, you got to have Hulk Hogan on there because, Hulk Hogan is still the most well-known name in all of professional wrestling. And that fourth name, maybe it's not a popular choice, but I think much like the other ones that I named, I'd have to go with John Cena.
So I think Austin, Hogan, Cena, Vince. And The Rock is Crazy Horse, which is another monument in the state. And it's like bigger than Mount Rushmore. And it was the very significant monument. And I think Rock, because like you said, Rock transcends wrestling. Yeah. And the Mount Rushmore was first, but then Crazy Horse was built second to be more impressive. So I think The Rock's Crazy Horse.
Cool. Well, we got 3 out of 4 that are the same on there. And yeah, Vince, I mean, you can't go wrong with Vince McMahon.
He's like the George Washington, right? He's the lead.
Yeah, he made this whole thing that, we both fell in love with and decided to dedicate our lives to go around and, take the bumps and bruises and everything that comes along with it. Speaking of McMahon, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a bit about, every time I hear a mention of Eugene these days in politics, this whole thing of, Linda McMahon from when she was running for Senate and, even up until 2019, they were going to have her as part of the U.S. delegation at the Special Olympics. And there are all these slander pieces that are being written about, but she created Eugene. She was part of the people that, made this character, this offensive portrayal of a special needs person, whatever you want to call it. How do you feel about how Eugene's name gets dragged through the mud throughout Linda McMahon's campaigns and pretty much anything she touches?
I'm not 100% certain, but I think one of the opposition, whatever they have, teams or lawyers or whatever, said that WWE Linda McMahon put a Down syndrome kid named Eugene's head in the toilet. And I'm like,
I don't think that happened.
That is a little too much, but I don't know. I mean, it's the business and that's politics. They're going to cut you wherever they can, but I went and did a stand-up for WWE video, saying that what I did was not, I didn't feel like it was in bad intent or slanderous or anything. I portrayed an underdog story of a boy achieving his dreams, wasn't against anyone. I've gotten more positive affirmation from family members. Hey, my younger brother has special needs, and he told me Eugene could do it, so he knew that he could do it. I mean, there's so many more times that I've gotten stories like that than any politician or radio DJ saying, hey, WWE was doing something wrong. Once people realized that, Eugene was a yes, I can, I'm going to win story, then they were with it.
Yeah. And so, being that now you're more focused on the promoting side of things, do you still feel like there's anything that you have left that you'd like to accomplish as a wrestler, as an in-ring performer?
I'm going to win the world title.
Yeah, I mean, hey, why not? I'm saying that with a straight face. Why not? You know, I'm good friends with a guy by the name of PCO from here in Montreal. He won the Ring of Honor world title at 52 years old. You know, that's a lot older than you are. So, hey, man, you know, anything's possible. Even another run on TV, even a couple appearances, you know, on NXT, AEW, Impact. How come things never did work out for you with TNA or with Impact? I feel like you would have been a good fit over there.
I don't know. I didn't. It basically comes down to if there's somebody in a position of power that likes you or wants to use you. Not that people disliked me, but I think people had the guys that they would bring in and their friends, and I just never had an in. When I got hired by WWE, it was Terry Taylor that brought me in, you know, and then being from OVW, I was kind of like there, and all the new guys were coming to me asking questions. I was the point man, you know, to relay information between, you know, the next level. I don't know.
So, I mean, do you think there's a chance maybe, you know, one of those big companies now, they're, you know, AEW or Impact, one of those companies might say, hey, you know, we might need a guy, even if it's to be an agent, let's say.
My law firm told me that, you know, I can neither confirm nor deny that I'm currently in contract negotiations right now with a major wrestling company.
Okay. That sounds good. That'll make for some great clickbait if we put that up there. I'm sure people will love that quote. But
and the second one was, you know, the best part about having your own action figure, you get to play with yourself in public.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. Well, you know, just to, you know, put a bow on that one, you know, I think definitely you have a lot to contribute, whether it be through your own promotion or whether it be through helping the next generation, or even, you know, being so gracious to take the time to help a guy a decade younger than you, you know, trying to bite, scratch, and claw their way to heights that you've been able to climb. Do you have any advice for people like myself, wrestlers, that are out there watching this? What would be the best advice you could give to them?
Burn your fucking boots.
Burn your boots and your bridges.
Burn your boots, kid. No, man, it's a journey, you know. It's like when you look back, these are going to be the greatest days of your life. And I know that everybody wants to make it to a TV platform, which is great. And there are becoming more of them, you know. Impact's out there doing, you know, steady business with AEW, with WWE having so many different platforms. I mean, and then there's some other companies that I've seen online that I think everybody sees that, you know, is like that next level that's still valuable. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. It's just getting your name out and, you know, just hitting it hard as you can. But if people really want to be trained and they want the full in-depth thing, they need to move to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We got a 2% unemployment rate. We're the fastest growing city, 47th fastest growing city in the country. And Midwest All Pro Wrestling can train someone. And I don't know anywhere else that has a monthly show that has arcs and storylines, and then we tour the territory. So, you know, some guys wrestle one show a month, and it's not like it used to be where, and like NXT is, where you're doing a weekly television show and basing your tour kind of off of the TV.
Yeah. No, it's an invaluable experience. And I mean, I wish we had something like that here in Canada. You know, we really have it rough here in Canada. We haven't had, I myself, so I've been doing this for 15 years.
Danny Duggan goes coast to coast, man.
Well, yeah. Danny Duggan does go coast to coast. You're absolutely right.
I'm envious.
I've wrestled for him, although Danny Duggan's been, he's been, you know, struggling to be able to put a show on because of all these COVID restrictions that we got going on throughout the country here. These draconian measures they're forcing us to live through to try to kill this virus. Hopefully it'll be one and done in, you know, a couple months or two. Here we're doing all right. But I have wrestled for Danny Duggan. In fact, I helped him expand and was in the process of helping him to expand into another province, my province here, Quebec. And then lo and behold, I think it was literally 2 weeks before he was supposed to make it out here, everything shut down. So, you know, that sucked for him. But, you know, we got a lot of obstacles we got to face here, too, as Canadians, because, you know, we don't have as many eyes that are on us here in Canada as the United States. We can't just make the drives and, you know, go to the towns. I'd love to, you know, head on down to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, although it would probably take me about a day and a half if I drive straight and maybe only stop for gas. But with that said, the border, work visas, these kinds of things, you know, we're not permitted the same kind of luxuries as, you know, guys stateside who can, you know, pretty much work freely, work for as many promoters, make those drives, be on the road. So with us, it's kind of a case of we, even being the best in our country, we still have to find a way to reach out, which is why I've embraced social media and just trying to get my story out there. And I'm very happy whenever someone like yourself is willing to come on this show, because it gives people a chance to find out about me and to find out about the people who've helped me along the way, of which there haven't been many, but I appreciate all of them. All that to say, I am working diligently to hopefully get more eyes on Canada and to let people know that we have great talent here, guys who could be future, main eventers, champions, Hall of Famers, whatever it may be. I kind of say we're like an untapped oil reserve here. Instead of digging for oil in Saudi Arabia and Iran and all those places, or digging for talent in America, there's a lot of great talents in Canada that could be game changers for any company. You're looking at one here, but I'm the run to the litter. There's 100 guys like me that deserve opportunities, and hopefully we'll get them someday. So
I've known that for a long time. I mean, just like you said, when I first got released, I jumped on the indies and I went hard, and I wrestled in Canada a lot and coast to coast. I mean, it was few and far between just because of the distance, but there was good talent all over the place. And just like you said, most definitely an untapped resource. And I remember the matches with you, and I thought they were phenomenal. And we packed them out there, and we had them up and we had them down, coast to coast like butter and toast. But keep plugging. You're doing well, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I definitely, coming from a veteran like yourself, that means a lot to me. And, with that said, I know we've talked back and forth here, but I want to put all the spotlight on you. I want you to let people know where they can find you, where they can follow your incredible story, and keep up to date with what you're up to on a day-to-day basis.
So, Eugene, my personal Twitter is at Eugene Dinsmore, Dinsmore. I'm on the Twitter, and then I like the YouTube, and I've got my own YouTube channel, the Nick Dinsmore YouTube channel, where I've got some matches from way back, and I've got some other things that I'm working on there. And then, but like you said, I put most of my effort into Midwest All Pro Wrestling, and MidwestAllPro.com is the website. Again, the YouTube channel, Midwest All Pro Wrestling. For the past 6 years, we've had monthly shows, so I've got a whole bunch of content on there. And you can see how the students progress when they first start, and a couple years go by, and they're doing better promos. At Midwest All Pro is the Twitter, and then it's on Facebook, Midwest All Pro Wrestling on the YouTube channel. I don't know, man. I think that's all I got.
Okay, awesome. Well, you definitely will have a future subscriber in myself. I encourage all of you who've watched and enjoyed this episode to also follow this man, subscribe. He's still got a lot of gas left in the tank, and I think he can still contribute quite a bit to the wrestling business. And if you've been entertained by this, I don't doubt that you'll be entertained by everything he's got to offer on social media, as well as the shows for Midwest All Pro Wrestling. So I assume we can watch the full shows on YouTube for Midwest All Pro?
I've got a lot more matches than full shows, but there are some shows altogether, yes.
Okay, good. Well, I'll definitely be checking that out. And, hopefully at some point, once this journey allows me to go to the United States again, I wouldn't mind, heading down there, paying you guys a visit.
Midwest All Pro has one video that has almost 2 million views.
Wow.
And it's when the Boogeyman went crazy and terrorized Fargo, North Dakota. And he was throwing worms all over. It was inside of a Harley Davidson dealership.
Wow. That's incredible. This just came to me, and I know it might interrupt the flow of our interview, but one other thing I remember from you, and you told this story. I don't know if you want to tell it on here or not. If anything, we can cut it out of the broadcast. But do you remember the story you told us about a time you were in, I want to say it was Australia, with Trevor Murdoch and Snitsky? And I think you guys went to a nightclub.
No, I don't think so. I think the one you're thinking about is when Trevor and I were at the gym, and we left the gym, and I was trying to get a stuffed koala bear. Is that the one where I was looking for the stuffed koala bear?
No, it's when you ended up at a nightclub, and it might not have been Australia, but I feel like it was Australia. And you ended up at a certain type of. That's
the story, but it wasn't. It was just Trevor and I, and we leave the gym, and I'm looking for a stuffed animal, and we go in this first building, and it's a porn store, right? It's all this porn, and it was like 75% straight porn and 25% gay porn, which that's fine, but Trevor just didn't even notice the gay porn. He's looking at the straight porn. Okay, so we leave. They didn't have a stuffed koala bear. We walked down a little bit, and I'm looking down the street, and there's rainbow flags up and down the street there. And Trevor, coming from Eldon, Missouri, had his hat on sideways, had his big chaw in. We were in Sydney, Australia. He had no clue where we were. I was happy to be there, but we go to the second place, and it's like porn store again. 50% gay porn, 50% straight porn, and Trevor goes right to the straight porn looking at it. And I'm looking for a koala bear and didn't find one, so we leave and we go down to the next one, and it's like another porn store, of course. 25% straight porn and like 75% gay porn, and like the big leather strap-on zipper. I mean, like it was this intense like shit here, costumes and stuff. Trevor still didn't notice any of it, and they didn't have a koala, so we leave that one. And then the next door was like, it was the nightclub, and you heard the music, doosh, 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 doosh. And we kind of looked in and looked down the hallway, and there's flashing lights, and the guy comes up from behind the counter, and he could tell we were in a, we were new to the establishment, and he goes, can I help you guys? And Trevor, what the fuck is this place? He goes, it's an all-gay, all-male, all-nude dance club. An hour and a half later, we got the fuck out of there.
That was the story. I forgot that it involved the stuffed koala. Yeah. Yeah, quite a story. See, that's how I remember you. I remember you in these, the stories, but also the stuff I learned in the ring. That was the fun of being on the road with you. And, those tours that we did out in the Maritimes, hopefully things will go back to that. Those were a lot of fun, a week at a time, 2 weeks, town to town, getting to be around a good crew of guys. The after show was just as much fun as the in-ring. And, I learned a lot, had a lot of good times, a lot of good memories. And I'm glad that we had the opportunity to reconnect on here. So with that, again, I can't thank you enough. I encourage everyone to follow this man. You're definitely getting a follow and a subscribe from me. And with that said, we always like to end every episode by saying the same thing, and that is that wrestling is life.
For life. Thank you.